Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Now That You Mention It podcast with Roll J and RJ.
I'm Roll.
I'm Jay.
And I'm RJ.
Hey, guys, we just want to start out by saying thank you to everybody. Thanks for all the love and support. Thanks for following on our movie tournament. We've got a lot of good feedback about it. Thanks for really giving us some love on our Facebook page, on our Instagram page, now on our Reddit page. Thanks for showing love to our YouTube channel. Remember to hit the like and subscribe button down at the bottom on YouTube and hit the bell for the notification so you can get the new content when it comes out. And don't forget to listen to our podcast in our audio-only formats on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and now on iHeartRadio. Hey, boys, how are y'all doing today?
Good. How are you?
Man, I'm living the dream,
Trying to stay out the heat?
Dude, it is so hot outside. And what's funny is, and I just realized this, and this is me being the bad husband that I am. My wife took my vehicle. They're driving to Santa Fe. So I told her, take my vehicle. It's a newer vehicle. And I'm driving her car. And I just realized how much the air conditioner sucks in her car. And I'm like, man, I got to get this thing fixed. I can't have her driving around like, because it blows cold air, but it's not like super cold like mine. The air in my car is super cold. And even when it's 100 degrees outside, once it gets going, there's sometimes I have to turn the air down because it gets too cold. And the AC in her car is just not like that, man. And I drove it today and I'm like, and then her seats are cloth. My back was all sweaty. I'm like, oh no, man, this is not going to work.
Well, other than aside from the hot temperatures, why don't we bring in our special guest and introduce who's going to be reviewing movies with us, Vaughn Franklin, who is a classmate of mine and Jay's from back in the day, old Lancaster High School.
Yeah, and the creator of the Cinema Chat group in Facebook for movie lovers and casual fans, which has over 200 followers in his 2 weeks that he's had it open, which is fantastic. So let's go ahead and bring him in.
Hey, Vaughn, how are you?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Not a lot, man. So tell us a little bit first about the Facebook group before we get into our movie tournament reviews and everything.
You know what? I just love talking movies. I used to work at Blockbuster Video for, what was that, 3.5 years?
There's
the
a
best
blast
part
from the
about
past.
it. Yeah, no kidding. The best part of it was talking about movies. The worst part was the pay. But at any rate, yeah. So I love talking to movies. I decided I was gonna. It just hit me on a whim a couple of weekends ago. I ought to start a group on Facebook, and we can just talk movies. Yeah, I decided to do that. I figured I'd have maybe 20 people by the first week, 40 people by the second week, and I just look now. It's 232 people.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Nice.
Man, that's fantastic, man.
And we just talk, every day we have a different discussion about movies. It's incredible. People love talking about movies, apparently.
So I'm about to ask you a question that's going to date you then. When you were working at Blockbuster, was it Blockbuster version VHS tape or Blockbuster version DVDs?
Yeah, you had to ask me that, didn't you? There was, I was VHS, and the store I worked at, which is by the Parks Mall in Arlington, we had laser discs, not DVD, laser discs. So those 12-inch things look like albums. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
RJ, you're young. A VHS tape is something
I know what a VHS is.
Play, and then you had to rewind it. That was the worst part, man.
Believe it or not, VHSs were still around when I was a kid, so I'm not as young as
The tail end.
In fact, we were fortunate enough to actually get one of those rewinder machines. Remember, after the movie was over, you just throw it in the rewinder machine, so you wouldn't have to do it on your own VHS.
Dude, they built
rewind those things.
Cottage industry on those things, man. It was like you were high tone if you had a movie rewinder.
Oh man, I'm telling you.
VHS movies, RJ. Like whenever you had a favorite part in the movie, like with a DVD, you can just like skip to the part where you like the best. You can't do that in VHS. You got to hit rewind. catch it at the right minute. Hope you hit play in time. You went back too far, then you got to hit fast forward to get to the right.
And then you got to worry about the tape getting out sometimes.
I know.
Yeah, it was something else.
It would get dirty too.
A different.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, guys, we are here to talk about the movies for our movie tournament, and this is week 1 of the movie tournament, and we're taking the first 2 movies on the bracket, and first we're gonna talk about both of them here. The 2 movies that we're gonna look at today are Xanadu and Uncut Gems. Roland's obviously showing his preference, while RJ very, very clear on his preference.
Yeah, you look at his name. I don't know if you see his name tag, but
that's what I'm saying, man.
one of the reasons I started laughing when we opened the show.
Like, man, so we kind of know RJ's feelings on Xanadu. But, just a little about Xanadu. We'll talk about that one first. Xanadu is a movie about a struggling artist who lives in L.A., who tries to make it on his own as a freelance artist and doesn't make it, and goes back to work for a record company, which, believe it or not, used to have him paint replicas of album covers for promotional purposes. And that's something you don't see anymore, but that is something that used to be done. There used to be an industry around that. The mythical muses come back to Earth, and one of the muses chooses him. That muse just happens to be the great and beautiful Olivia Newton-John, which if anybody were ever going to come back as my muse, I'm not saying no. So, if you're listening, I'm for you. I'm here, just letting you know. And so, he falls in love with her, which is forbidden in her world. But she inspires him to live his dream, quit his job as the artist of painting record labels, and partners him with the great Gene Kelly. And together they open a dance / roller skating studio club, and
Whatever you want to call it, something like that.
kind of the gist of the movie there. So, it was a movie that we saw when we were kids. RJ, I know you had never seen it. I know you'd never heard of it. And that was kind of the point of some of the movies that we picked for this tournament, was movies that maybe we hadn't seen in a very, very long time, movies you'd never heard of. And this was one of those movies that I remember seeing as a kid. I remember some parts of it, but I don't remember all of it. But the one thing I remembered about it was Olivia Newton-John. And there's a lot of great songs in that came out that were actual, chart toppers back in the, 80s when that movie came out. Magic, Suddenly, the duet she sings with the I can't remember
Cliff
the guy.
Richards.
Yeah,
Cliff Richards.
The movie, music by the great
Electric Light Orchestra.
Electric Light
Yellow.
Yeah, ELO. There's just some really, really good music, and it is a movie / musical. As defined by all the musical numbers in the movie, which I know RJ had you scratching your head at some point, I'm sure.
We'll get to that.
So, well, let's start with you, RJ. What were your initial thoughts on the movie, being the youngest and never seeing it before?
I'm going to be honest. I thought
be brutal. Be brutally honest. That's
the whole point of this, man.
It was kind of terrible. And it's nothing against musicals, because Olivia Newton-John was great in Grease,
Yeah.
But I just feel like, probably 80% of the movie, I kept thinking, what's the plot here? And I think the singing was just a little overbearing in this one. I think when you talk about Grease still had a great plot. It was about the rival gangs, and obviously a love component too. But there was more, of a conflict in that one than I would say is this one. I had some interesting questions for you guys. I think was roller skating like a very big thing during that time period? Because
yes,
absolutely,
yes, huge.
Because he was like roller skating everywhere.
And that whole LA area scene, that was really big. When you get around the beach areas and the boardwalks out there, roller skating. Even now, if you look at some of the movies and some of the TV shows, you'll notice that there's always roller skaters in the background because it is still a big thing. Now it's just inline skates as opposed to the
Right.
real roller skating that you had back then.
And
Yep.
us growing up, I mean, I can remember when we would take class trips to the Lancaster roller skate, or the one in DeSoto, right there on Beltline. Yeah. So roller skating was it was big. It was big. It was a part of our adolescence.
Well, other than that, a couple other things was that I thought it odd that at one point the lady just let I forget the main actor's name, but she just let him take his moped, and he said, "I'll be back with it." I was
That's right.
something like that would not happen in today's world, I don't think.
No. The late 70s, early 80s were more free time, dude. You didn't
Yeah.
worry about it so much.
And I think the real reason that Zeus decided to let her go at the end was just because he got tired of the scene himself. So he couldn't take it anymore.
Wow. Couldn't take it anymore, huh?
I'm just saying.
All right. Well, Vaughn, as our guest, how about we hear your thoughts on it?
So I never saw it when we were younger, and all my life I heard it was terrible. That's all I ever heard. It was just one of the worst movies ever. So then I watched it this weekend, and I think after hearing how bad it is, and I saw it, I was like, this isn't garbage. Wasn't that bad. Plot needed some help. The acting needed a little bit of help, but you know what? It's not as bad as I thought. Looking at Olivia Newton-John is not a problem either. That was awesome. I mean, that was awesome. And for Gene Kelly's last movie, it looked like he was having fun. So
Right. It's pretty impressive. He can still move the way he, for a lot of the younger audience who's not going to know who Gene Kelly is. I mean, the guy was a phenomenal dancer, actor, singer. He just was a whole different era. This movie was right at the tail end of his. It's like Vaughn said, it was the very last movie he did. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Vaughn. It was good. It looked like he was having fun.
Yeah, and well, I know Vaughn and I talked about this in the back before we actually started the show, but the main actor Michael Beck was actually the lead of the gang in the movie The Warriors.
Right.
And so, it's kind of like a polar opposite of The Warriors, where he was, in a gang and they're running for their life, and it's about, survival on the streets of New York, to a guy who falls in love with a muse and is a painter and has a gentle soul and, kind of falls into that whole artsy lifestyle, completely different role for him. And then, the great, Gene Kelly. The dance scenes with him and Olivia Newton-John were phenomenal. The little tap dances they did together when she's dressed as a soldier, kind of like, because I think part of the movie is that where the plot could have needed help was the explanation of the backstory with him and Olivia Newton-John. You could obviously tell that she was a part of his past. They just didn't go deep enough into the story to explain what that part was. And with her being a muse, you can only assume that she was amused to him at some point in his life.
Yeah,
right. May have fallen for her, and these muses have to go back to home with Zeus, and so maybe seeing her later on in life kind of brought back those memories, and kind of led him to be successful as he was, because he was a successful construction guy. I think was his job in this movie. So, overall. It brought back some really good memories of the songs. Like I said, if with this being the digital age where I don't have to watch the whole plot, so I can go back and watch certain aspects of it. The whole the part where she sings Xanadu at the end, the closing number is really cool. The song Magic is really cool. The dance with Gene Kelly was really cool. To go back, if you could just go back and watch those parts, I think, it becomes a better watch.
Well, yeah. So when this movie came out, I was just about to be 10 years old. It came out in the summer of 1980. I was just about to be 10. For me, revisiting this movie was certainly about nostalgia. We were transitioning kind of out of the hippie movement. Disco was really kind of making its mark on society. The music obviously was very nostalgic. Seeing Olivia Newton-John and how beautiful she was. But I agree, when you really analyze the acting, the plot was very, very weak. It's very thin. The acting could have been much better. Again, from the nostalgia perspective, Gene Kelly. I mean, I'm a huge Gene Kelly fan. Anybody who wants to learn more about Gene Kelly, go watch Singing in the Rain. That and a bunch of movies in that genre. But to get back to Xanadu, I think it's the revisionist history in all of us that we always seem to think things are better than they were. So when I go back and rewatch this movie, I can see why RJ feels the way he feels, because I mean the plot line was super, super weak. But for relying on the talents of Olivia Newton-John, the music score, Gene Kelly, I really didn't feel any emotion. I mean, you didn't. There was a love story in this between the leads, and you never felt any chemistry. You never felt like. No, I mean, they just happenstance meet and they fall in love. I mean, how? I mean, not that doesn't happen. I mean, I do believe in love at first sight, but there was certainly no chemistry in the acting. There was no chemistry in the storytelling here, and so, not as great as I remember. Definitely movie I still enjoy watching. The soundtrack, again, phenomenal. So that's kind of where I'm going to leave that one.
Well, I'm going to just say a couple more things is that I wanted to point out. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it's the worst movie of all time. It definitely had its moments. But like, as soon as the movie started, and for like a good portion of the probably 50% of it, I was just thinking, man, this movie seems like it was written on acid or something. They start off with like the painting coming to life, and I'm just like, oh, this is not a good sign. But Michael Beck's character sure does complain a lot about starving, but he's always skipping work.
Yeah, he sure is.
And then one other thing that just kind of confused me was at the end when they're doing the final scene and they have all the people dancing and the waitresses are just carrying those empty square or whatever. And I was like, what was the purpose of that? So
it was also, but I told Vaughn earlier when we were talking about this, for me, even though this is a movie based on fantasy, the most unbelievable part of this whole movie, the most fantastical thing, was how they were able to get the construction on that thing done in a matter of weeks.
Oh, I know. I mean,
I know they're drinking Dom Perignon like it's nothing.
Them damn California Teamsters were not having that, man.
Hell no.
There was no way they were going to get that thing done in 2 weeks. They're
Gene Kelly's actor. Gene Kelly's character would have died before they actually got the permits and got the building actually built.
Before they got the okay and slipped enough money to one of the inspectors.
Right.
One part I laughed at, though, she desperately asked Zeus and her mother, can I go back and just spend some time with him? She goes back, and what does she do? She sings on the other side of the room from him. They don't spend any time together.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? I thought she wanted to spend time with him. What's she doing singing? Yeah. Nowhere near the guy.
Yeah.
And then she leaves afterwards.
Yeah, and then she left. So she didn't spend any time with him.
Well, yeah, he's like, let's talk. And then it just kind of fades out. And you're like, what were they going to talk about? That's a weird closing, but okay.
That's in the Snyder version. the Snyder cut. We find out what they were talking about.
Oh, man.
Cut.
So, I mean, again, when you put the movie in context, I obviously, because we wanted to talk a little bit more details about these movies, right. We all did a little bit more research. This movie was actually the runner up to the very first Raspberry Award.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
Right. And so, I mean, that tells you really how
How bad it was.
how many critics dumped on this movie. I think,
when you look at it, you go back and you actually read it, because like you said, afterwards you watch it, you kind of have to go back and do a little research on it. This movie was built solely as a vehicle to showcase Olivia Newton-John after Grease, right?
Yeah.
At that time, she was a top-selling artist in the world, musically. They're trying to play off the success of Grease, the great, the greatness between her and John Travolta and that chemistry that they had. They were really, really just trying. This was just built as a vehicle just to showcase her, because I think the movie that she had done in between Grease and this one was a flop, and it wasn't a musical. So I think they were trying to get back to that whole, let's showcase her musical talent, and that's what's going to make us more money at the theater. And I think when it came out, this movie did fail at the movie theaters, but it has gained a cult following. Believe it or not, this is a real big movie in the gay community. It's no, I'm serious. It's
no, he's right. It is.
It's a real big movie in the gay community, and it has really built a cult following over, the last, 40 years. So, it is what it is. It was terrible back then, watch for some people now. But I guarantee you there's people out there that would defend this thing to the end. Well, you don't understand the what's going on between the muse and the artist and what it means. It's not, for the regular person like us, it's the plot was trash.
I think they ended up doing it, but that would have been better as a Broadway musical than a movie.
Yeah.
Because
it is a Broadway musical now, and
it is now
Broadway.
But some of the choreography was just like, this shouldn't be in a movie.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that, I mean, there's nothing wrong with musicals that become movies.
Cats.
Cats. That's another story for another day. But you look at things like West Side Story or even Grease, they got adapted pretty well. But it just seems like, I think based on the timeline, when I went back and read, there was some significant time between Grease being written as a musical and then it becoming a film, whereas this was just kind of a film first. So
and morphed into being a musical.
Yeah, exactly.
A play. So, guys, our whole job in watching these movies was to go through and score them based on some criteria. So the criteria was, sorry, I should have had this ready. Let me pull this up real quick. Criteria were 5 categories: strength of plot story, the storyline, the star power, the strength of the cast, the quality of the acting, the emotional buy-in, and whether you would watch the movie again. We went through and we rated these 5 points for each category total. So a movie can score up to 25 points. So, Vaughn, let's start with you. How did you score the movie overall?
So overall, adding it all up, it got a 10 from me. The plot storyline. You want me to go through the? Yeah, I gave the plot storyline a 2. It was bad. It's not the worst I've seen, but it was bad. Star power, strength of cast. Now, see, if you take Olivia Newton-John out, I'm putting, I don't know, Joan Rivers. That movie would have been complete trash. So, with her in it, it was star power and strength of cast. I mean, it's Gene Kelly, so I gave it a 3. Quality of the acting, gave it a 2, and I'm being generous there. Emotional buy-in, and RJ said it best. Roland said it best. There was no chemistry between those two at all, and I don't know why she fell in love with him. I don't know what in the world. So I gave it a 2. Would I watch it again? 1. I mean, I might. I might. I doubt it, but I might.
All right, so Vaughn's in with a 10. RJ.
Total score, I give it a 5.
Wow.
Plot, like I said, I mean, 80% of the movie, I was just like, where's this thing going? So I gave plot a 0. Star power, I'm pretty much same with Vaughn. I gave it a 3. Credit to Gene Kelly and Olivia Newton-John. Quality of acting, same thing as Vaughn. I give it a 2. Um, Emotional buy-in, 0, because there were times where I was just spacing out. And so a 0 for watch again, because I want that hour of my life back, man.
90 minutes. 90 minutes. It was 90-minute runtime.
Okay, well, whatever.
All right, well, let's.
I thought it was 3 hours.
Either way, it was too long.
It felt like 3 hours.
Yeah,
So,
it felt like 3.
I think my score is totally and all up is going to be a 10 as well. Plot was a 1 for me. The quality of the star power, I gave it a 3 as well. Emotional buy-in, quality of acting, both of those are a 2. Would I watch it again? You know what? I want to change my score, make it an 11, because I would give it a 3. I would watch it again, not because I want to see the movie, but I enjoyed the songs. Again, watching Olivia Newton-John. If it's on TV and I got nothing else going on, I definitely would sit there and watch it and listen again. But would I specifically go find that movie just to watch it again? Probably not. So I give it an 11.
All right, and Ro, I'm right there with you. I also scored it an 11. Just like you guys, the plot, again, I gave it a 1, just because the overall plot storyline was so choppy and so hard to follow and what was really going on. Star power, I gave it a 4, just because, well, Olivia Newton-John is 3 of that. And the great Gene Kelly, I give him a point for that, because he is great. Like Roland said, go back and watch Singing in the Rain. Go back and watch some of those great musical dance numbers that the guy does, and you can tell his greatness. Quality of acting, I gave it a 2. On the low end, again, there were some parts that you kind of get a little stir from it when the part where Olivia Newton-John and Gene Kelly are interacting, the whole part where he's living back in his past and they're singing together. That was a little bit of the emotional buy-in for me, because at least there was some kind of feeling there between them. If there was no chemistry between the main actor and Olivia Newton-John, there was a little chemistry between Gene Kelly and her. And then would I watch it again? I gave it a 2. Like Roland, if I'm not going to go seek it out, but if it's on TV and I'm flipping through the channels and they happen to be playing, the part where they're singing together, I'd stop down for a minute or two and watch it. So I gave it a 2. So my overall score was, I gave it an 11 as well.
Very good. Well,
right, guys.
So now let's talk about RJ's movie. Well, I guess technically fan voter movie.
Yeah, fan voter. But
let's talk about Uncut Gems.
Yeah, so Uncut Gems is a film directed and written by the Safdie brothers. Just a fun little fact, they had actually, I believe, pitched it to Adam Sandler years before, but he turned it down at that time, and they just kind of continued to pursue him until they got him to say yes. It came out December 25th, 2019, so, right before coronavirus hit. The movie is 135 minutes long. So let's get into the actual storyline. It's an electrifying crime thriller about Howard Ratner, who is a charismatic New York City jeweler, always on the lookout for the next big score. He runs KMH, which is his shop in the New York City's Diamond District. And the movie is pretty much about him making a series of high-stake bets that could lead to the windfall of a lifetime. But he must perform high-wire balancing act between business, family, and encroaching adversaries on all sides in his relentless pursuit of finding that big win.
Yeah, thank you, IMDb.
So, I mean, You didn't say I had to write it.
No,
I did. That's great.
That's hilarious.
That's
So, Vaughn, let's start with your take on Uncut Gems.
You know what? I saw that in the theater, and I was on the edge of my seat almost the whole movie. I thought it was incredible. Adam Sandler, never really seen him that good before, except for I forgot the name of that movie. But anyway, yeah, it was really good. I thought the acting was good. Like I said, on the edge of my seat the whole time. Wasn't expecting the ending. I'll say that. Was not expecting the ending of that.
Yeah.
So it shocked me there. I was like, "What in the world just happened?" But man, it's a roller coaster. It takes you on a trip.
Yeah, it does. I mean, that's probably one of the most stressful 2.5 hours I spent watching that thing.
Yeah, man. There's no way around the fact of I look. I'm not a big fan of chaos. You know,
Me
and
either.
whenever I see movies with a lot of chaotic scenes and a lot of just
drama,
it
just
makes
high intense
dude,
drama.
it makes me so like nervous. And that scene in the diamond shop when they bring Kevin Garnett in for the first time. All those people that are, talking over each other. There's somebody trying to get in the door, and Adam Sandler yelling, "Don't let that dude in here!" And everybody's kind of on edge because Garnett's bodyguards, push the mob guys out, and Sandler's yelling at his employees and his other employees all pissed off at him because the mob guys tore his shirt, and like everybody's talking over each other and so loud and just so much chaos. And Garnett's trying to get attention, and the guy who brings Garnett in, Adam Sandler's buddy, trying to get attention to sell him fake watches. And I mean, it was just so chaotic. So just after that scene alone, man, I felt like I needed a Xanax. I was like, God dang it, man. Just after I had to stop after that. After that scene, I had to stop the movie and wait till the next day to go back and watch the rest of it because it was so hard for me to watch.
Well, I would tell you too. I was tripped out a little bit by the musical score. Some of the background music in several of the scenes were just, I think they were incorporated to kind of make you feel even more on edge. The storyline certainly was very, very edgy. This guy is very highly addicted gambler, taking all these risks, doing things that I think none of us would really consider, doing in everyday life. For example, when he gets his stone in, shows it to Garnett, the opal. He shows the opal to Garnett. Garnett just has to have it, wants to take it to the with him, and leaves his championship ring behind. And then Howard runs down to the damn pawn shop and pawns Garnett's ring to get 20 grand to bet. I mean, it is insanity. I mean, how do you do that? How do you take Kevin Garnett's ring, go to a pawn shop, pawn the damn thing, and go make a bet? I mean, if he'd have lost that bet, well, it turns out later on that the bet never ever got placed, but let's just say he would have lost that bet. Now he's got to come up with another 20,000, or actually 24,000, because we were calculating what the VIG is on all these different things going on, right? And so I think those guys got him for like a 15% VIG on 21,000 that they loaned him. And so you're thinking he's got to pay back $24,000, which he doesn't do in the time frame that he's supposed to. And so now they add on another VIG when he changes out rings. And I'm just thinking to myself, oh my God, this guy cannot help himself. He just makes the situation worse. It was very tense, very, very tense. And then the fact that he's still living at home to some degree with his wife, to whom he's going to get divorced. And he's got his side piece that works at the shop with him, living in an apartment in town. And he's going back and forth between the two and interacting with his children. And they're, because he's making all these damn bets, he's glued to his damn phone the entire time because he's trying to watch, he wants to watch the scores, right? And it's just,
yeah,
I got worked up too, bro. I mean, I actually had to divide it as well. We started watching it. My wife and I, we saw about the first hour, and then we just kind of, hey, let's just pick up tomorrow. I'm just so tense right now. This thing is freaking. I can't imagine on like you watching it in the movie theater for
at the movie theater,
2.5 hours, man.
Well, and you know that scene you talked about where he got Garnett's ring, I almost felt it as soon as Kevin Garnett handed over his ring. I'm like, this dude's going to sell it or pawn it to get money to bet. I mean, that was something I just kind of, I was like, man, that's you know, that's going to happen. And so, man, just the whole, man, that whole aspect, you're right. Just, I couldn't imagine knowing somebody like that and having that kind of mentality all the time and having that kind of, you know, living that kind of life, man. Just knowing that you're constantly robbing Peter to pay Paul. I mean, I know people that do that with their bills, but damn it, when you're doing it with betting, man, you're playing with somebody else's money. And I mean, you're going to be lucky if you make it out of that alive. And there were a lot of times when I thought, you know, there were a lot of times when I thought there's no way he's going to make it out of this alive. And then he pulls through. And so by the very end of it, when the last scene happens, it was so unexpected. It blew my mind because you're thinking, man, this guy finally found himself out of dug himself out of a hole. And, you know, he's going to come out of this unscathed. You know, he may have to pay this guy a little bit more money than the 150 grand that he owed him or whatever it was. He may get out of it for $250, pay extra, but he's still got another $1 million sitting in the bank. And then that happens and you're like, holy shit, you know? And, you know, the thing that kind of blew my mind and the question that I had, I know RJ, you had questions after watching Xanadu. I had questions after watching this was, so his brother-in-law was
the loan shark,
right? Yeah. He's the one, those other two guys were working for him.
right?
So I just didn't understand the end part when they just up and blew him away too. Like, I can get why they did it to Adam Sandler, but if this guy's their boss, how are you going to shoot this guy too?
That was weird.
Yeah, I took it as the fact that, you know, they had enough with Adam Sandler, obviously. So they capped Sandler or Howard. And I think the fact that Arno got so nervous and was trying to get the hell out of there, I think he just felt like, okay, this guy's going to squeal on us. This guy's going to turn us in or whatever. So I think that's why they capped Arno too, because they were kind of fed up with it too. Because Arno at times, you know, he kind of held them back as well from really releasing their entire wrath on Sandler's character. So, I mean, I could totally see why they kind of lost it with Arno and just capped him too. I think if he stood against the wall, kept his mouth shut, and remained calm, he probably would have come out of it okay. Who knows? But the mere fact that, you know, they tried to get him to shut up and stand over there inside, and then he tried to get out anyway. I think the guy just made a snap decision and said, "Oh, this guy's, you know, he's gonna turn on us, or he's a weak link." Other than that, obviously the guy was pissed off from being locked in that little chamber for 3 hours, right? Yeah. So I mean, he'd had enough. And you're right. That part where he first walked out, you kind of get the sense that you're finally getting over all this tension. He wins his score. You're thinking, all right, somehow this asshole made it through this. He's going to get his money, pay these guys off. He's going to be okay. And as soon as he walks out, that guy just puts the gun to his face and kills him. I thought, holy crap. I sure as hell didn't see that shit coming. So I was like, oh my, man. So we were taken aback by that as well.
Yeah, I would just, adding on to that, I think it also has to do with the fact that those guys just knew that when it all came down to it, Arno wasn't going to really, literally hold the gun to Howard's head. So, he always kept giving him passes, because if he was really going to hurt Howard, he would have done it in that scene where, they kidnapped him at the school. They could have just easily killed him there and the movie's over. You know what I mean? So they just knew that it was just always going to be, a revolving cycle, if you will. So I think that's why it played out the way it did. And it kind of fits the way the movie goes, like it's just so chaotic and so on edge that you didn't really expect it. And I mean, it wouldn't have been a right fitting for him to, kind of walk off into the sunset with the money. It wouldn't have been as good of a film, probably.
I will say, even if he walked off at the end with the money, he was going to lose it. He was going to bet it again.
Yeah.
He had a problem.
Yeah.
He had a serious problem.
Big
and
time.
He's never going to win.
Right, and he was his own worst enemy, because if you go back and look, he spends this money, and we don't know the full backstory, but my assumption was going in this, he borrowed the money from Arno to buy that opal, right? And so as soon as he gets it, he can't help himself. He has to go show it to Kevin Garnett, who right then and there decides he has to have it, right? And so he takes off with it, gives the ring as collateral. We know the rest of that part, but then it takes him days to get it back from Garnett, right? And so he's got this thing going into an auction. He thinks this thing is worth up to $1 million. So that's where he's actually thinking his big score is going to happen, is at that auction. And of course, he shows up for the auction, and the appraisal is 1/10 of that. It's set at $155,000 to $180,000. And all of a sudden, he blows his top. He's like, "What the hell is this shit?" And when the auctioneer tells him, "Well, what the hell did you expect? You brought it to me on a Friday for a Monday auction." In late Friday. So, our gemologist did a quick appraisal. This is what he says it's worth. And so now he's got to get his father-in-law involved in the auction to get him to drive up the bid. And then he winds up having to owe his father-in-law not only the $190,000 for the bid, but a 20% buyer's premium. So, he just put himself in the hole another $40,000, right? So all these things continue to mount, and like Vaughn said, it wouldn't have mattered even if they hadn't killed him. At the end, by the time he'd have paid off, I think RJ and I were just trying to do a very loose calculation about what he owed out of that $1.2 million. He was already probably right around 300 and something thousand just to get his head above water, and whatever he would have had left over. I mean, I agree with Vaughn. He would have gambled that stuff away like that. Yeah. I mean, it would have been gone like that.
You can, just from watching years and years of rewatching Goodfellas over and over again and seeing as many gangster movies as I've seen, that's how you can tell Arno wasn't a good gangster, because the minute that guy would have stepped out of line and popped Adam Sandler, Arno should have took his own gun out and popped that dude for being insubordinate, but didn't happen. And so it was just, it was a mess. Well, my second question was, so do you guys think that the girlfriend now, that's all her money now? She's like,
oh, hell yeah.
She got 2 bags full of $1.2 million.
I mean, I thought about that too when the movie was ending, and you're going through that. I was like, okay, so first of all, what you don't know is she going right back to the jewelry store, right? Are those guys, they're obviously cleaning out and they're going to be gone. Now, depending on whether or not the police get to there before she does, she may be walking into this scene. She's holding a bag of money and the police walk in. I mean, who knows? I mean, it's all speculation. But the reality is she could also very well say, you know what? Get there. Find that Howard's dead. I mean, at that point, who knows she has the money except the bad guys, right? The bad guys know she has the money, but she could take that money and just disappear,
She did seem pretty smart. Who knows? She might just take the money and run.
Yeah.
That whole part at the very end was kind of, I like the way that she was smart enough to get the money out from the bet. She used that high roller guy that had been hitting on her or whatever to go in and get the money for her. so that the two goons that are in there waiting for her never notice that it's her.
Right.
That was pretty smart on her part too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and she was smart.
again, just that it was a train wreck of a movie that you couldn't look away from. Just because, man, you just felt like you were watching something. I just felt like the whole movie, something really, really bad was going to happen any second. And it seemed like just when it got to the very second when something bad was going to happen, he managed to escape out of it. And that's why I thought at the very end, that ending, it surprised the hell out of me. I like you guys, I was not expecting it. It was man, it blew my mind.
So now let's score this puppy. So Vaughn again is our guest. Why don't we start with you, Bud? How did you end up scoring this thing?
All right, so for the plot, I thought the plot was excellent. Like I said, I was involved with everything, so I gave that a 4. The star power, I mean, Adam Sandler's an A-lister, but Idina Menzel's not really an A-lister. Idina's borderline A-lister, and she was barely in it. No one knew who that Julia Fox was. Eric Bogosian, I know who he is because I watched a ton of movies, but so I gave it a 3. And Kevin Garnett was in there, and The Weeknd was in there. Quality of acting, 5. Everybody in there was incredible. I thought everybody was incredible. Emotional buy-in, I'm actually going to give this a 3, and the big reason is I didn't care about that main character at all. I mean, I think he did a good job, but I hated him. I hated Adam Sandler's character. Yeah, it was like, please just get out of your own way and do something right for a change, and he never would do it. And it doesn't make any sense. You get this hot girlfriend and you're jealous. Then quit having a hot girlfriend. Quit having a hot girlfriend. Would I watch it again? 4. Yeah, absolutely. I'd watch it again. So altogether, it's a 19 for me.
Nice. Yeah, very good score. Very good score. All right, RJ, you're up.
All right. Well, my scoring is actually once again on some things very close to Vaughn's. Plot, I gave it a 4. Obviously, I think you guys all kind of said it was hard to look away from, even if you thought it was chaotic. Star power, I gave it a 4 because Adam Sandler, Kevin Garnett, The Weeknd. Probably should have gone closer to Vaughn's, but that's my score. Quality of acting, I gave it a 5. It's a thriller. If it made you feel like you need to take a Xanax after, it at least achieved something. Emotional buy-in, I did give it a 3 because there are times where it's just a little too hectic. And then watch again, definitely a 4. Like I said, this is the second time I've seen it. So,
okay. So total score was
20.
It sounded like 19.
It's
20.
A 20.
Okay.
20, yeah.
20.
Yeah.
20.
All right, Jay.
Roll. You're up.
No, you're up. You're up.
Okay. All right. Well, for the plot, I also gave it a 4. I think that it was, if nothing else, it was an interesting story. I think that we've all known some people in our life like that who have those kind of issues, but plot some, I give it a 4. Star power, I did give it a 3 because of the fact that there were some really good actors in this movie that were so underutilized. Vaughn mentioned, Indina, her character being the wife was so underutilized. She's only got, I think, a total of 10 minutes of screen time. Judd Hirsch is the father.
Yes, Judd Hirsch.
Got
Judd Hirsch.
Almost the great Judd Hirsch and very little screen time. One of my all-time favorite female actors, Tilda Swinton, who played the voice of the auction house lady. You never see her on screen. You only ever hear her voice.
Oh, that's right.
And Tilda Swinton is great, dude. I love Tilda. Mike Francesa as the bookie taking the bets from.
Yeah.
I forgot about Mike Francesa.
The very, very confusing cameo of John Amos.
Yeah,
I didn't get that. He was.
I forgot about that.
So, that's why I gave the star power a 3 because I just felt like it was. They just underutilized so many great actors in this movie. And yes, you did have big stars. Sandler was there, Kevin Garnett was there, but man, they had so many. There could have been so much more to the movie had they utilized some of those actors a little bit better than they did. Quality of acting, I gave that a 4. Like you guys, I thought it was very, very strong. Sandler's character, as much as you hate him, you can't admit that it was good acting on his part. Emotional buy-in. I'm like Vaughn though. As much as great a performance as Sandler gave, I hated him. There was no emotional buy-in for me either. I gave that one a 3 as well because I'm like Vaughn. I remember, out of this movie going, you never want to really say you're glad somebody got killed, but I'm kind of glad he got killed. He didn't deserve to get that $1.2 million at the end of it, man.
Yeah. And
then would I watch it again? I gave that a 3, just for a simple fact. I don't think I could put myself through that again. Once was bad enough, man. I mean, if it's on and I'm flipping on through a channel and it's there, I might watch it for a few minutes. But to sit there and say I'm going to seek it out and watch it for a second time completely, I couldn't do it. So my overall score was 17.
Okay, 17. All right. Well, so my score is a 15.5.
Wow.
Yeah. So here we go.
I didn't know you could do a 0.5.
Well, you'll understand why. Okay. So the storyline, I gave it a 4 because it was an interesting story. It was packed full of emotion. It was packed full. I mean, it's a very credible type scenario when you've got somebody who is super addicted to gambling and taking all these risks. It's easy to see how that person's life could just become so overwhelmed with drama, taking chances, making bad decisions. And the fact that this revolved around the stone to some degree, I kind of bought it all. I thought it was a good storyline. The plot line was pretty strong, so I gave that a 4. The quality, the star power, I gave that a 4. Again, for all the mentions of the stars that you laid out there, Jay. I'm a huge Judd Hirsch fan. To me, he's again one of the Incredibles. Just a great actor. I've watched him from Taxi. I don't know if you guys remember the sitcom Dear John. I just love Judd Hirsch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Quality of acting, I gave it a 3 because Adam Sandler gave a great performance, in a serious role. But I think it's like you said, Jay, some of the other characters were a little bit underdeveloped. And I think part of it, the story might have been told a little bit better if there'd have been a little bit more character development. Like Arno, I mean, you learn kind of halfway through the movie that he's Adam Sandler's brother-in-law, right? But at first, I don't know. I just think there could have been a little bit better character development. But overall, I still gave it a 3. Now, so let's see. That's So my 1.5 comes in, or actually 0.5. Yeah, 15.5 is what I watched this movie again. Probably not never. Even if it was on and I just happened to be through channels, I'm going to keep flipping. Not because I think that the story was weak or the acting wasn't good. I just can't deal with movies that have that high level of tension and drama. It's one of the big reasons, like I told you guys, that I can never get into, that growing up, we were huge Transformer fans. But I can never get into the Transformer movies because the movies, they have so much action going on and you can't tell who's who. You can't tell who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. All you just see is destruction and fighting and this, that, and the other. And I just, my ADD just gets so overwhelmed. I really wind up having an unpleasant experience watching those movies. So I
Michael Bay.
Right. I've watched one Transformer movie and that's it. And I could never get into the others. And it's the same thing with this movie. I think while it's high scores on everything else for me, I think the 0.5 is the fact that I will never watch this movie again. I don't want to sit there and put myself through all of that. Even though now I know what the ending's like, it's just the mere fact that to see somebody continually put themselves into high stress situations, into making very poor decisions, and going from, to some degree, one level of calm into ballistic mode in a snap of a finger. I mean, F-bombs going everywhere, people yelling over each other, people, and not to mention all this is going on. And he's still got these other, these little side hustlers that are trying to get their money from him. Like the two, I think the two brothers that confront him a couple of times in the movie trying to get their money. And he gives them
the two weakest gangsters in the history of every movie ever.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and the guy that he's got the Michael Jackson pendant, and that guy shows up at the shop trying to get his stuff. And I mean, it's just pure chaos. By the time I got through that movie, I was so emotionally spent. I told my wife, you know what? All in all, I think I got to give it a good score. But again, I will absolutely never watch that movie again.
All right. Well, just to recap, Uncle JJ, what was your score on not on Uncut Gems, on Xanadu?
On Xanadu. So my score for Xanadu was an 11. My score for Uncut Gems was a 17.
Okay.
Roland's score on Xanadu was an 11, and his score for Uncut Gems 15.5. Vaughn's score for Xanadu was a 10 and a 19 for Uncut Gems. And then RJ, 5 points for Xanadu and 20 points for Uncut Gems. So I think we get the overall winner for our vote anyway for our part of the vote this week. I think clearly Uncut Gems was the winner of this battle in our eyes. But hey, we're not the only ones who have a say-so. Our viewers, listeners, guys, we definitely want you to chime in. We're going to have the poll up here shortly. We want your guys' opinions on what you guys think. Who should win this battle between Xanadu, the great Olivia Newton-John, and Uncut Gems and the mediocre Adam Sandler.
So here's a point of note, right? Either RJ or I are going to be extremely unhappy because if Xanadu wins,
all I was trying to make
if Xanadu wins, RJ has to watch Xanadu again. If Uncut Gem wins, I gotta watch it again.
Oh, so y'all made a little side bet.
No. I mean, we didn't make a side bet, but
for the next round. Yeah, you're right. Man, it's going to suck for one of you two.
Right.
That's why I was trying to tally up the scores, because you kept saying I would never watch it again. And the point I was trying to make is based on, I mean, obviously we have to take into account fan vote, but I mean, Uncut Gems.
You're going to be watching it again.
Xanadu. Come on, man.
Our audience who voted Uncut Gems in.
Punish RJ.
Ensure that it's the second round.
You like me. Punish RJ.
All right, guys. Well, we're getting to that point. Vaughn, we really want to thank you for
Vaughn, thank you guys
tonight.
Yeah,
it was great to get your opinion. We really love what you're doing with the Cinema Chat group. Keep it up. Keep up the good work. And you know that we're always going to put our voices in there and put our 2 cents in with the questions and stuff. And definitely, later on during the tournament, we would love to have you back. Maybe for another round and maybe some different movies to get your opinions and takes on those as well. But hey, man, really thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. If I come back in, no Xanadu. But yeah, I appreciate it. Not doing that
Vaughn,
again.
We'll talk to you later, sir.
All right, guys.
We'll talk to you later, Vaughn.
All right, Vaughn. Well, that was fun, guys. Obviously our first round is, or at least our first review for our portion of the first round is in the books. I got to admit it was kind of fun just sitting down, watching a movie, but also trying to really understand how critics look at some of these things. Obviously for me, when I watch a movie, it's for pure enjoyment reasons. And in the context of this contest, we obviously made a lot of rules to prevent some of our biases really from dictating the voting. A la Godfather, a la Goodfellas. Some of those movies that we know that we love already going into this thing. So I thought that was fun. Uncut Gems was a very good surprise. So it's, from our standpoint, it's going to be surviving another round. We'll see what the fans have to say. Before I wrap it up, any last minute remarks from either one of you?
I would just say that I just want anybody watching or listening to know that I went into this honestly kind of because I had seen Uncut Gems. I thought there was a pretty fair chance Xanadu might have beat it, but after watching it, I just was like, there's no way in hell. So, just to be clear, I guess the point I'm trying to make there is that, I gave it a fair chance. It's not like I went into this thing, with an already predisposed mind. Yeah, what I was going to vote. So, I like I said, I wouldn't say it's the worst movie out there. It was just very confusing, and I think like we talked about, it just felt like they were trying to, in a way, recreate, not necessarily recreate, but a next rendition of Grease to really showcase Olivia Newton-John, and hopefully our fans agree, because I don't want to watch Xanadu again. And I would just point out that Rotten Tomatoes did give Uncut Gems a 92 and Xanadu a 20.
Boo, boo.
And Xanadu got a 27.
Boo, boo, boo.
If you vote Xanadu, you're kind of out of your mind, is what the critics think. Just putting that out there.
Well, the great thing about this is I think that we're really opening our eyes to some movies that we may not have seen or would never have regularly seen. Like I don't think I would have regularly stopped down to watch Uncut Gems just because it didn't seem like a movie that interested me. I had seen Xanadu before, but I don't think it was a movie I would have went out and seeked out to go watch again. But we definitely want to hear our fans' opinions on this before we determine a winner. Also, guys, just remember to join us next week on our next show, when the movies we're going to be reviewing are going to be Parasite and Casablanca. I feel like that's going to be a bigger battle than this one was. This one was a little lopsided, to say the least. But hey, guys, that's the whole point of this, and that's all the fun of it. So, Roll, why don't you take us home?
All right. Well, thank you all for giving us another hour plus of your time. We really do appreciate you guys tuning in and watching. We do hope that you participate and log in some votes on our Facebook page. Try to be interactive in this. Leave us comments, good, bad, or indifferent. We really appreciate your time. Again, remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons, as well as ding the notification bell so that you are notified every time we drop one of these episodes. If visiting us on YouTube, or if our faces are just too ugly and you can't really stand watching us on screen, feel more than free to check us out in the audio formats on Apple Podcast, Podbeans, Spotify, and of course now on iHeartRadio. So for Jay, RJ, and myself,
just so you can tell it, Roland's a Mexican. It's Podbeans.
I never wanted to point that out, but
everybody's a freaking critic. Anyway, good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and thank you, Jesse P, because we couldn't do this without you. See ya.
Amen.
Good night, guys.
See you guys later.